Well, I forgot to hit the unloop button, guys. How are y'all doing? Hope everybody's having a good night. There you go, Jojo. Drop the link. Joby. Where's he at? He's over there. Quit growling. Already got puppy dogs wanting to misbehave. Get out of that. Come on. Hope everybody's having a good week. Survived the election. I hope everybody is not panicking and doing all right. Hey, girl.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. And you?
I'm doing good.
That's good. I mean, it's hump day. I mean, we survived the election. I haven't heard of any big catastrophes.
Not yet, anyway.
Right.
So,
we were laughing. We stayed up till like 3 a.m. just watching the results play out. My husband's like, "Yeah, it's official. We're old."
oh my gosh, that's so funny. What was I gonna say to you? Let me see. It's saying I lost access to my camera. Why is it saying that? It's so weird.
It does that sometimes. StreamYard can be difficult.
Okay, gotcha.
You're still here. I mean, you don't have an avatar or anything. You use naked up on stage.
Yeah, I'm just like, a little purple voice, I guess.
Yep.
I just spent the last 2.5 hours watching old Menendez trial footage.
Same. All afternoon. Same. I had caught some stuff on one of the Reddit threads, and somebody had asked. There was a question I had thought of, and somebody had asked it about important people testimony to watch in the trial. So I had screenshot. One gave this really good list of people, and so that's kind of what I was trying to catch. And my God, they're all so damn long. All of them. It's like Jesus.
You know what really, really amazed me? I had forgotten this part. Leslie Abramson alone called 51 witnesses.
Yeah.
Family members, friends, associates, and everybody was so consistent in reporting issues of abuse and mistreatment. And one cousin was talking about how, and you probably have seen this, Jose would hold Eric's head down in the pool and hold him there until he almost couldn't breathe, and then pull him up and say that's part of your training.
Yeah, well, there was one, somebody had testified that when he was 5 years old, he hit him in the stomach, like punched him in the stomach.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it just baffles me. But I figure what we'll do tonight is we'll start with the prosecution side, kind of start from the beginning. We're not going to do all of the witnesses because, I mean, my God, I just got through part 4 and it was like 8 hours, 8 hours, right around 8 hours worth of testimony. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
It was like kind of skimming through some of it. One of it, of course, like they call the boat captain, and he really didn't have a whole lot to say other than Kitty stayed down in the below deck on the boat and she did get sick. Somebody else got sick, but I don't remember who he said it was. None of them fished when they were fishing for the mackerel, and they fished for mackerel and used the mackerel to fish for the sharks because they went shark hunting that day. And I think Erik is the one that caught a shark. But he did say, the boys had gone to the front of the boat and Kitty went down in the boat and Jose was just doing whatever. So it's kind of a weird dynamic even that day, which to me confirms their story about how they felt with things.
I agree. There's just so many weird situations. Like I was watching one cousin's testimony, and he talked about how he was spending time at the Menendez house. And there was one night where he heard some like weird screams come from one of the bedrooms down the hallways. And Kitty had stopped him mid running down the hallway and said, "Don't you dare go down there."
Yeah.
And shushed him back to the room. And he went and he listened.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the people that the defense called was I mean, not the defense, prosecution was one of the tennis instructors, and this guy had known them for years and would come over to eat, and he said that it was just, you know, very tense and awkward all the time. He
Is
said,
this the one that got fired, Brandy?
oh, I don't know. I didn't go that far into what happened with him. Um,
Oh, okay. Okay. I know a
he
little more, but yeah.
he was there. And his name is, let me go find it real quick. Because I have it all saved to watch or to share rather. But he said that in all of his years of coaching, he's never had a parent behave the way that Jose did.
Yep. Yep. It's got to be the same guy. He testified at the first trial.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
I am not even looking at the second trial yet. I'm still I'm starting the very beginning. I wanted to break down prosecution all the way through defense. So this series is going to be so long because there's just way too much to get to. Let's see.
Well, good. I'm glad we're on the same page because I even took it back to like events that were happening around that time, including OJ and Rodney King,
Mhm.
and where the LA District Attorney's office was at during that time. And there's some attorneys that I saw interviewed at that time that was saying they looked like a bunch of clowns, and this was when Gil Garcetti was the DA. So they were really, really, by the time OJ was done, they were looking for a win.
They were. That's what I was saying. Um,
Last week, right? Yeah,
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 is
yeah.
that and they were going to get. Now, it is not cooperating with me today. They were going to get a win one way or the other with this. They
Yep.
just weren't. Oh, there it is. Let's see. Is this the one? Well, it had them. The one that I was looking at had them listed. Let's see. Oh no, I'm on the wrong one. Duh. Let's see. Sorry, guys. I am. I don't want the. I don't want that. Let's see. I had it saved just right, and evidently that didn't work.
Gotcha.
Let's see. Yeah, because I have like 6 parts, and I didn't even get through all of them yet. So there's just no way we're gonna get to all that tonight. Let's see. Well, in that, I think it's this one. Let's see. Because see, on this part here, this is part 2. They have Bob Anderson, which is the boat operator, which is what I was talking about his testimony a while ago. They have Thomas Edmonds, the detective sergeant, and Dwight Van Horn, deputy firearms expert. I found that testimony boring. I mean, we know they were shot with a shotgun. We know how shotguns work, And
Yes.
so to me, I was bored. I was really bored with it.
You know what I found really entertaining to watch?
What's that?
Leslie Abramson go back and forth with that judge.
Oh, she did not take anything from that judge at all.
She was a little powerhouse. Like, I never realized just how strong of an attorney she was.
Right. Hey, Rosalie.
Hi,
Welcome.
Rosalie.
So the one that they have, this Perry Berman, and that's the former tennis coach. That's the one I was talking about.
Yep.
And then they have Glenn Stevens on, which is the former friend of Lyle. And this guy here, they bust him in several lies. Like he's trying to make it sound like he had never seen Lyle with money, and that Lyle was acting weird, and all of a sudden he's got a Rolex, and all of a sudden he's got this, and they're like, did he? Do you remember stopping at a kennel with him? And so what about the dog that he bought? How did he buy the dog? Well, I don't know how he bought the dog, so they bring out the credit card. And show the credit card statement where Erik pays for, or Lyle pays for the dog. Then they bring up the fact that they were at the mall shopping, and there was this really expensive belt that he wanted. She said it was around $200. He said it was $125, and he didn't have the money for it, so he put it back, wasn't going to get it. And then they leave the mall, they get to the car, and Lyle has been a friend and bought him this belt. And so they kind of dispute everything he's trying to say. Like, he's already done major interviews. He's talking about writing a book. He come to find out he had looked at all of the police files. They had given him all of the records that they had on the case beforehand.
Yep.
And so it was like they padded his testimony.
Yep.
Crazy.
I was like, what in the world?
How did you feel about, did you get as far as Lyle and Erik's testimony? Because
No, because that's part of the defense testimony. So today I was just working on steadily going through the prosecution.
Okay. I looked a little more at the defense stuff today. I was really curious because I don't think I ever really watched the second trial.
They don't have, it's not taped. It was never published.
Yeah. I've been looking for it, and then I can't find anything. Only docuseries on it. That's it.
Right. Yeah, there's not anything on it. They would not allow cameras in the courtroom for the second trial.
Gotcha.
Like the first trial, we had two juries. And so in between these witnesses, if it was a witness for Lyle, then Erik's jury left the courtroom. If it was a witness for Erik, Lyle's jury left the courtroom. So they constantly were back and forth moving these juries around because they didn't want to taint the jury for their defendant. They had to keep it so separate. To me, it would be very confusing, but is also better than one jury deciding the fate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But they also didn't let any of this testimony in.
No, and it really, I think that's what sealed the deal for them the second time, because the jury, and I watched some interviews with the jurors from the first trial, they really were, for both cases, truly divided because of the fact that, and I didn't think about it at the time until I started really, really watching more of that trial, and I saw witness after witness after witness, saying they saw Jose do this or Kitty do that. At one point, I think Kitty was drowning so far into alcoholism and some kind of mental illness that she was seen by her own nieces and nephews just randomly breaking plates in the kitchen. She just starts screaming and throwing plates. So, once I saw that stuff, Brandy, I was kind of like, oh my gosh, no, in today's society, we would have recognized all of this as warning signs,
Well, and back then we just didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about family issues and mental health and abuse. It just was not talked about. And she was obviously suffering with her own demons, whether it be because of her marriage or from past trauma herself. I don't know. And I think he was too. I do think he was too.
both of them, from what I saw, Kitty came from that type of setting. And, Jose Menendez is like wanted to be the next Fidel Castro.
Right.
So, he was very, very power hungry, which really, really explains his rise in his career because of the power hungriness. It made him very aggressive in the
And he was
business
not
world.
liked. He was not a liked man at all.
No, no, no. He ruled on fear. People were afraid of him.
Yep.
And then I think about those poor Menudo boys.
Right, because they were so young.
Like super young. Like Roy Rossello, he breaks my heart.
And so, let me see. What was this guy's name? Donovan Goodrow. Because this here has this whole thing written now. I'm going to play this one video here in a second too. But it's,
cool.
It says, according to Robert Rand's book, and I did listen to, I meant to send it to you. What is the name of the book? Hold on. Let me pull this book up real quick. The Private Diary of Lyle Menendez. And it's the one that they did. That is why he did not testify in the second trial. They did not want these tapes brought forward. Now, what I hear in this book, because they actually, in the Audible book, they played the audio recordings of what Lyle's saying to her. And of course, they keep saying that he's having these ranting moments and that he goes off and he's very demanding and he's this and that and he's throwing fits. But they don't play any of that in this book. What they play is him talking about all of this and how the trial's going and how he's feeling. And other than them saying this was what he was doing and this is what he was saying, they try to paint him a certain way, and that's not what I'm hearing in the words that are coming from him.
Yeah.
Voice, because it's literally his own voice on the Audible. So because you do Audible, you need to get that book.
Yeah.
It was really good. I enjoyed it. I was frustrated with them and how they kept trying to say he would say this and this and this and act this way, but they weren't playing that. So if you're wanting to paint him as being this bad dude, why are you not playing the stuff that shows him being a bad dude?
Exactly. There was also a lot of objecting that I saw in the first trial in regards to the past petty criminal charges against, I believe, both boys.
Yes. Yeah, they had a lot like petty theft and maybe vandalism, I think.
Yeah, which I found interesting. I didn't remember that from years ago.
If you guys are just coming in, thanks for joining us. Make sure to give me a thumbs up, if you will, please. That helps us get into the algorithms. It's a free way to support the channel. And we are discussing the Menendez trials. We are starting at the beginning of the trials, currently talking about the prosecution and the fuckery that went on there.
Definitely.
But this guy, where's that video? Let me play this video. Let me go open it up on another page so that I have it. I don't want to lose my spot with the one.
Got you.
It's like, let's not lose that spot. Let's see. I think it's going to be here. Hold. I keep doing that. Oh, okay. It's not my doing that. It's the little buttons keep flipping to the next moving on me. Instead of the pause button, it's the back button.
Gotcha.
Okay, so I found this little interview today. And this is, his name is Rand, and he did an interview of Donovan Goodrow. share this. Okay, let's see. Let's make sure everybody can see it. Put us down there. Okay, so here's let's play this real quick.
Lyle Menendez are telling the truth, that their story of molestation is genuine. I've interviewed over 400 people in the course of my 4.5 years of research on this story, and I have other independent corroboration outside of the trial testimony that supports their stories.
Bob Rand did discover one other person who said Lyle Menendez had talked about sexual abuse before he was arrested. Donovan Goudreau. He was a roommate of Lyle's at Princeton. In a taped interview that's never been heard before, Goudreau tells Rand about the conversations.
That one person who would know something isn't here to defend himself.
No, see, the reason he told me that, he did tell me a lot of things about, his father stuff and that, but it's like, but I always thought he was doing it to lure me into maybe believing his objectives, but he never told me why he was doing it, why he was telling me. It didn't make sense until afterwards. You know what I'm saying? He told me a lot about their past and stuff, and it was similar to my past. I was molested as a child, and I told him that, and I guess that opened the gate. He told me, and I was like, wow, and his brother were molested.
The trouble is, when Goudreau took the witness stand, he denied the conversation ever took place. When a tape was played for him, he said he still didn't remember.
So you still have no memory of that conversation with Mr. Rand?
No, I don't.
Are you saying that that conversation never took place?
No, it obviously took place. I just don't remember the conversation.
You recognize your voice?
Yes, I do.
That is your voice.
Yes, it is.
4 days later, in a hearing outside of the presence of the jury, Jill Lansing, Lyle Menendez's attorney, questioned Donovan about the conversation with Lyle at the Chinese restaurant. And when she asked Donovan the question, in the course of the questioning, Jill asked about the conversation at the Chinese restaurant. And when she asked about what was Lyle's reaction after you told him you had been molested, Donovan Goudreau said on the witness stand, nothing. And Jill Lansing turned very pale. She was shocked because she knew about this conversation from several sources, including myself. But Mr. Goudreau denied that he had ever had that conversation with Lyle Menendez. That evening, on the advice of an attorney, I went to one of the local Los Angeles television stations with the audio tape interview I had recorded in March of 1992, and I played a portion of that tape for the newscast, in effect publishing the information. The next morning, the defense attorneys had videotaped the newscast, and they brought the air check of the newscast into the courtroom, and they confronted Donovan Goudreau on the witness stand, and they asked him if hearing this tape refreshed his memory. And he admitted that that was his voice on the tape, but he didn't recall ever having that conversation with me, even though he and I had discussed this topic a number of other times in the course of our relationship over the 3 years before the trial.
All the jurors are back in court.
Just insane. I mean, they just
Wow.
lie. Just lie.
I wish I could say I'm shocked, but I'm not. Wow. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Well, in this description, it says, according to Robert Rand's book, The Menendez Murders, Donovan Goudreau told Rand on December 7th of 1990, before the defense in the case was made public, about the molestation in a taped interview. I'm not going to lie about the abuse talks, but I won't be the first to step forward, Goudreau said. Rand, I heard something. Rand says, I heard something this week that sexual abuse might be the kind of defense they try to do. Goudreau says, oh, no, don't tell me that. They're going to do that. Rand, yeah, that's what I heard. Nothing definite, though. Goudreau says, you know what's going to happen. Lyle's going to tell them, well, if you don't believe me, ask Donovan. And then he laughs. I told him, that's the whole transcript. That's what that is. I'm like, what is this exactly? It's a transcript of the conversation.
Gotcha. So at the end of all of this, what did you think?
I suspect that the prosecution convinced these witnesses to not be honest about it, to try to debunk it.
Do you think they tried to do that during the second trial in particular?
I think that's why they prevented all of it from coming in.
Yeah. I felt that the second trial was so biased, and I only saw the stuff I saw in the documentary about it. But, I mean, I felt bad for Leslie Abramson and Jill Lansing, and, it was kind of like their whole defense was just ripped from them. And then I saw Leslie Abramson come out of a grocery store, and I guess TMZ was following her. And they were like, well, what do you think about the Menendez brothers possibly getting out? And she's like, no, a jury decided that already. That's done. We're not talking about that anymore. And she walked away from them.
Well, she told them, she was like, lawyer-client privilege still stands. I like her. She was a no play person. I like her. Rosalie says men are more unlikely to come forward with that kind of stuff because of embarrassment. And that's true.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Because they were told, men don't cry, I mean, the prosecutor even said that these boys could not have been AR'd because they didn't have the right equipment to be AR'd. That's ignorance, flat out ignorance.
But just listening to the cousins, the aunts, the family friends, the tennis coach, there was so much. If you didn't know about the sexual stuff, you definitely had to know about the mistreatment. I mean, almost trying to drown somebody in a pool, apparently. That's physical abuse. I mean, but nobody ever reported it. And when the defense asked some of the family members why, they said, well, it's in the family. You just don't do that.
Right.
I thought that was interesting. I said, yeah, that's something that's definitely changed over the years.
Let's play some of Donovan's testimony. Let's kind of go through it just a little bit.
Sure.
I think that's important for people to see. Let's see.
I was at the Princeton Market Fair. I was a short distance from the school.
Were you a student at Princeton University at the time that you met Lyle Menendez?
No, I wasn't.
Were you ever a student at Princeton University?
No, I wasn't.
And when you met Lyle Menendez, did you and he become friends?
Yes, we did.
And after becoming friends, did you, in fact, become his roommate? Records of your whereabouts around the 18th of August of 1989, did you also provide a handwriting sample for use in a handwriting comparison?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have here an envelope. I'd like to have it and its contents marked as Exhibit 51, please.
Yes.
Approach, please.
And going out for dinner, we were kind of talking about some of the things we were going to talk about during dinner.
Okay, when you say you talked about some of the things you were going to talk about during dinner, were you talking about topics or?
Yes.
All right, and during the dinner, what was the atmosphere like?
I was sitting on pins and needles, but Lyle seemed to handle it pretty well.
All right, but you were sitting on pins and needles. Why?
Well, because Lyle was also at the time still under the assumption that I was become a Princeton student, and his father turned to me after greeting me and started asking me questions about that.
Now, let's talk about this idea of you being a Princeton student. How did that idea get started?
It started when I got a job at TGI Fridays.
So basically, he was having to lie to his dad that his friend was a Princeton student, and he wasn't?
Yeah, that I find a little confusing.
Yeah. Odd, very odd.
Who?
Go ahead. What was that?
No. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Mentioned the idea that you were going to Princeton.
To get a job there, I told him I was going to be in the area that I was planning on being a student at school. And then Jamie heard about it, and then Jamie told Lyle, and and then it just grew and grew and grew.
And pretty soon everyone thought you were going to be graduating from Princeton University.
Yes.
Did you have any intention of graduating from Princeton?
No, I didn't.
Had you ever applied to Princeton?
No, I haven't.
But so the genesis or the beginning of this was that you were trying to get this job?
Yes.
Now, when you had this dinner with the Menendez family on your first night in California, did Mr. Menendez ask you questions about your plans?
Yes, he did right away.
Let's see. Let's find some more interesting part of this. Let me see. Which part is this? Oh, look, here's the reporter. Let's go with this.
You played part of this tape from Ms. Lansing, is that correct?
That's correct.
And when was it you played her tape?
It was in, let's see, approximately.
This is that Robert Rand, the one that we just listened to talk about the audio recording of Donovan.
The
Right.
I believe sometime in May or maybe the end of April of 1993.
So that was this year.
Yes.
Did you also play portions of the tape from anyone from the team of Mr. Eric Menendez?
No.
Okay. Now, what was your purpose in playing the tape from Ms. Lansing?
I am writing a book for Simon & Schuster, and in the course of my research, I interview many different people. So I was trying to do some research about some of the topics that were raised by Mr. Goudreau. And so I approached Ms. Lansing and asked for an off-the-record interview regarding some of the information in my interview.
Did you ever come to the prosecution with the same information and ask for comment?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because I understood that the prosecution was not doing interviews. I had spoken to Mike Petula a number of times and asked for interviews with the prosecution. I was told they were not doing interviews until after the trial.
Do you remember interviewing me?
Yes.
Okay, and do you remember during that interview, you told me that the prosecution had a better witness, and I think it was Craig Signorelli. Remember?
Yes.
Telling me that? You remember me asking you who that witness was?
Yes,
Remember you telling me you wouldn't tell me?
that's correct.
Okay. But you did make this information available to the defense, is that correct?
Which information are you speaking of?
About Donovan Goudreau.
Which specific information?
The tape.
I didn't play an entire tape. I played a very small portion of a tape.
How much money are you getting for writing this book?
We're not going to object to this. I think this is really irrelevant and not the case.
All right, objection sustained.
Okay, Mr. Rand, how come you never played that for the prosecution?
I'm going to make the same objection. It's irrelevant. How come?
Objection overruled. I was told that I approached.
I want to say they're kind of angry that the defense had some information they didn't have.
You think, like, look at Judge Stanley there. I mean, you can just see the man has no poker face whatsoever.
None.
Like,
None.
he just can't hold it in. Oh my gosh.
No, this was not a biased judge by any means. Or
No way.
unbiased judge, rather.
The press information officer for the district attorney's office and had asked a number of times since my return to California last year for interviews with yourself and with Mr. Kuriyama, and was told that interviews were not available.
Did you tell any of those people the kind of information that you had on the Donovan Goudreau?
No,
So you just asked generally for an interview, is that correct?
that's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask for access to the tape. I don't know if it's appropriate to take the first time to play the entire tape, but before we conclude with Mr. Goudreau and send him on his way, I would like to hear the entire tape, and not only the one that's here, but the other hour and a half.
This is basically where they're getting the tape to play it. They will probably release the jury so they can do that in this.
Right.
Now, that Mr. Rand has.
Well, let's get some more information about what this tape is, how it was created, and what's on it.
All right, the 2.5 hours that you have taped was, I believe, you indicated you remember a period of 2 days, is that correct?
That's correct.
What portion of the 2.5 hours?
Brandy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah, you there?
God.
What happened? Jojo, I can hear you, or I could hear you.
Brandy, can you still hear me?
Yeah. Are you there?
Oh, you froze on. Crap.
I can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah. I could. Are you still there? Try that. You there? Okay. You there?
Yep, I had to go back and come back in. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That one from the studio. There we go. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. Let's see. Sounds like this is where they're going to get the tape and play it. Let's go here.
Material several months ago. I thought it was about 6 months ago. I think he said it was in May while we were he played.
Let's get him back on the stand. It's gonna be
No, he picked up the tab.
Regularly?
Yes, he did.
Do you remember telling Mr. Rand that Lyle was always buying dinner and margaritas for the two of you?
No, I don't recall that.
Did Lyle?
But see, this disputes what the prosecution kept saying, that the boys had no money and that was the motive for the murder.
Correct. Yeah,
And that's
absolutely.
what they're using these people here to try to make it look like that. But it sounds to me like Lyle and Erik were footing the bill for everything for these guys.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no, I was listening and watching them on some of their prison interviews. There was never a denial of the fact that they didn't have the money for everything they wanted.
Right. Right.
They never denied that. They, a lot of people look at it as and I know Kendall has somewhat of a differing opinion on this, that, it's two spoiled rich boys who were afraid they were going to be denounced from their will, and I get that part of it. That might have been part of the factor, but to me with 51, I think it was a fear too, but with 51 people testifying that they were being treated this way, I don't even understand how this ever went to a mistrial. And the only thing I could say is it's because it was back in the early 90s.
That's the only thing I can come to any kind of conclusion of, is that it was the time.
Yep.
And even what is his name? Gascon. He said if this happened today, we would be having a different discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are more open and we are having that conversation about abuse and mistreatment and those things, and we recognize that men and women are abused, not just women.
Yeah, and that prosecuting attorney in the first trial, the tough lady, what was her name?
I can't remember what her name is. She's the one that's on the Netflix documentary saying, I've got guns.
Yes. Yeah, she's older now, but she was a spitfire. She really felt that those kids killed their parents for the money.
Well, in these cases, a lot of times what happens is they have blinders on. They get these blinders on what a defendant is, and they don't look outside of that box.
Yep.
And see the whole picture. And I'm not excusing the crime. Y'all don't think that. I am not excusing the crime. What they did was awful, was brutal. Those pictures, Jesus, the pictures of the autopsy is
they're pretty
horrendous. And I didn't mention this the last time. Discretion here. This is going to be a little bit of a trigger warning and gross. But when they moved Jose's body off the couch, his brain fell out of his skull from the hole from the shotgun. So they were unrecognizable. They were brutally murdered.
Yeah.
And there were better ways of doing this. And I think what I hear them say now is that same thing. We're not excusing what we did. We're just saying there were mitigating factors that put us in that mindset of this is what we had to do. And it was legit abuse. I mean, they were legitimately abused. Legitimately. That's not the word that I wanted.
When you hear them talk about the things that they went through, and,
Oh,
I
yeah.
wasn't able to sit through it as a young girl, but I can sit through it now, and it's just, I
Yeah,
just don't think you can make that kind of stuff up in
I'm
your head
trying
like
to
that.
decide what part of that testimony I want to play. Because it's very upsetting.
Yep.
Very, very upsetting.
Yep.
And I'm going to pick out bits and pieces because I think it's important, but at the same time, I don't want to be too much of a trigger warning. I'm going to drop this link in the chat, guys. This is the video that I'm playing now. That you can watch in its entirety because it is literally, let's see, just this one alone is 4.5 hours.
Yeah.
And
A
I'm
lot
trying
of
to very pick
testimony.
through here, and there was so much.
Yeah.
I should have wrote down what it was I was looking at, and I had a timestamp for one of them, but I didn't write down which clip it was. So it's like, oh, that was good, Brandy, really good. But this is what happens when I've spent the last 2 days in pain, so I don't think straight.
Yep. I totally get it.
Not to mention tired because, I had to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning watching the election play out. I don't know what possessed me to do that, but, So
I
let's
gave
see.
up at 11 and went to bed.
Did you? Yeah, not us. Not us. We were sitting here. We both had our phones checking the AP and watching the news and seeing what they were saying and how the numbers were comparing. And it was finally, I was like, babe, it is almost 3 o'clock. And he's like, yeah, we're officially old.
I said the last time my husband and we stayed up till 1 a.m. and we were like, all right, we're okay with this. We're going to bed. Then we woke up at like 6:30 and everything changed. And I was like, was that a dream? And then we're like looking on our YouTube to make sure that we were on the right live and it was still there. And
Well, yeah, it happened that way when Obama was elected. I'm watching the numbers and I'm looking at them like, okay, I think this, I'm happy with this. I'm going to bed. I went to bed. It was like 10:30, 11 o'clock. I wake up and the numbers had totally flipped and Obama had won and he was losing when I went to bed. And I'm like, holy crap, what happened?
yeah.
And so, it's the first thing I did this morning. I opened my phone back up. I was like, okay, nothing's really quite changed. Like, oh wait, there it went. He had at that point had 277, and I think what are the numbers now? 220. She had 224, and he had 292. I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way she was going to. That was unbelievable. They said
Well, and
those.
they had pretty much said once the Republicans had taken the House and the Senate,
Yeah.
it was like almost impossible to fathom that Kamala would have won at that point. Because by numbers, most people vote either Republican or Democrat across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I mean, there were some record-breaking things happen in this election. It was really kind of cool to watch play out. I was proud of my kids. My kids all voted for the first time.
Yeah, so did mine. They do good. They go every 4 years.
Well, my son has always said he didn't want to vote because it didn't count. It didn't matter what we said. And this year he kept saying before the election even got here, Mom, did y'all register to vote? You're voting, right? We gotta get our voices, we've got to, and I'm like, dude, where did this come from? I tried for years to get him to understand it was important to vote.
Yeah. And it's good that everybody finally gets it. I just hope now, like, just to bring some unity and some peace. I think it would be so nice.
And we need to, I was telling my husband this last night, and I had read this somewhere. We need to quit fighting each other over people in government who do not know our names and give a rat's ass about who we are.
Absolutely.
We're fighting our neighbors and our friends over people that don't know us and really and truly don't care. They don't care.
Yeah.
And they can say they care all they want. If they cared, they would work on unity more than they do, all across the board. And I'm like this with all of politics. I think everyone in our government needs to be fired and we start over.
I hear you.
Except I'm afraid it would get worse.
I totally hear you. And I'm just at the point where I'm like, I just want to keep doing what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
What we do does bring people together. So, I just think it's important. That's why, I'm glad we're looking at Menendez again because, I think the movement on this is going to be very quick, especially with the governor getting ready for clemency.
The habeas trial goes before the judge November 26th, and the resentencing goes December 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So, depending on what they come with the habeas, we could have something different than the resentencing in December. So that's kind of interesting to me. I wasn't even thinking about that being two separate things. I thought they would kind of do it all together. And I had thought since they had voted to do the resentencing and send that to a judge with recommendation, I had thought maybe that combined the habeas petition, but it doesn't. They're two separate things.
Right.
So I don't know. That's kind of interesting to me. I'm be watching that to see how that plays out.
Yeah. I still ascribe to the theory that I think it's time. I think there's other people out there that, need the services that because of those young men, now older men, really trying to change their outlook on life. And, I think they've done a lot of good for prison reform. And I don't know. I just feel like enough's enough. I think they served out their time, especially after listening to so many witnesses who were so consistent.
Yep. Well, and what's weird is the defense witnesses were very consistent. And yet I'm playing some of these from the prosecution and we're hearing where they're changing their testimony.
Mm-hmm.
They, conveniently don't remember conversations happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, if I'm having a conversation with somebody and we're talking about our mutual abuse that has happened, I'm going to remember that conversation. Somebody comes to me and they're telling me about their abuse, I'm going to remember that conversation.
Sure.
You can't tell me he didn't remember that conversation.
Yeah.
Too convenient.
Yeah.
Way too convenient.
My dad always used to say, there's three sides. His side, her side, and the truth.
Right? Yep.
And the truth is always somewhere in between.
Well, Mr. Angry Pants here. Let's see what else he's got to say. He looks angry right here. Like he is so mad that he's been busted.
Sorry, Benny's barking at me. Knock it off.
The first page is a letter from me on my dictionary, and then 3 handwritten pages.
Yes.
And is that the letter you were referring to that you received from Lyle Menendez
Yes.
several weeks ago?
Yes, it is.
And that's dated June of 1993?
Yes.
And did that letter in any way suggest that you shouldn't testify or what you should say?
No, not at all.
And did it in any way threaten or intimidate you or make you feel that you shouldn't come here and testify?
No.
Any questioning on behalf of Eric Menendez? Anything by the prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down.
Mr. Goudreau, you were here in court on July 26, 1993 as a prosecution witness. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And at that time, I believe that you told us about your friendship with Lyle Menendez. Do you remember?
Yes.
And I asked you,
So this is when he's been recalled by the defense as part of the case.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
if there was a conversation which took place in a Chinese restaurant.
Yes.
Do you remember? And did such a conversation take place?
Yes.
Was that in May of 1989, approximately?
Late April, early May.
Can you tell me what the mood was of this conversation in the Chinese restaurant? What was going on?
I'd known Lyle for several months up to that point, and we had spent a lot of time together, bonded as friends, and got to know each other very well. It came towards the end of the school year. We were both making plans for the summer, future plans together. We decided to have dinner somewhere off of Palmer Square, some Chinese food place. It was late at night.
Let me ask a question. At the time that you were having the conversation, were there a lot of people in the restaurant, or was it?
I think when we first went in, it was clearing out. It was late at night. And then as the night went on, as dinner finished, I think it was empty, with only the staff waiting for us to leave.
Okay. And were the chairs put up on the table?
Yeah, I think actually the chairs were on the table.
Okay. And what type of conversation were you and Lyle Menendez having?
So they got a restaurant to serve them after they had closed?
Did we hear that right?
I mean,
'Cause I heard the same thing, and I'm like,
Okay.
huh?
Yeah, because that's what that sounds like. You know, the chairs were up on the table, and they were waiting there for them to come in.
Okay.
Weird.
That is really
What kind
strange.
of money were they throwing at this place? Like, good grief.
Well, I mean, I know they blew like over 700 grand up until
Yeah.
the time that they were finally arrested.
Yeah,
So
they
that must have
blew
been
through
part
a
of it.
lot of the money. They were not ready for that kind of money. That
Yeah.
money needed to be set in a trust for them. They were not. And I don't think anybody at that age would have, not just because they murdered their parents, but anybody at that age. That's why most people that leave that kind of money do set it up in a trust where you only get so much a month and certain things have to happen. You know, it pays for school or whatever. That obviously didn't happen.
Gotcha.
Having at that time?
I forget how it started, but it was along the lines of, we know everything about each other, and Lyle asked if there was anything about me he didn't know, and I mentioned that I was abused.
Now, you mentioned this in sort of an offhand way now. Was that a very big thing for you to reveal at the time?
I had never told anybody that I was abused.
Now, why were you telling Lyle Menendez at this time?
Well, I felt really close to him, and then I felt like, he showed an interest in me and wanted to know everything about me, and also I felt the time was right for me to tell someone.
Okay. And how did you feel in talking about your own abuse?
It wasn't.
Okay, Rosalie, we might have missed that part. Rosalie says, no, they said that when they first went in that there were people, and by the end of the night, there was no one. Okay. I did misunderstand that then. Sorry about that.
So did I. Thank you, Rosalie. You're the best.
Easy. I didn't think it was going to be.
Okay. And what did you tell him had happened to you?
Objection, hearsay.
Right, it's not being offered for the truth of what is said, just to reflect the conversation. You may proceed.
I can't remember word for word, but it was something along the lines that I was abused when I was very young, and that it kind of changed the course of my life, kind of.
Did you tell him who had abused you?
I can't recall if I did or not.
I mean, I have to say, this has to be very hard for him to be doing right here. I mean, I don't want to, I mean, did he try to hide it and not want to come out? Yeah. But in the end, this had to be very, very hard for him.
Yeah, I agree. And it looks like it's super tough on him based
Yeah.
on his presentation, and you could see it in his eyes. Like,
And the way he tries to breathe, try and
Yep.
take it himself. Yeah, it's not easy for him at all.
Who was it that had abused you?
It's a friend of my father's,
A male or a female?
male.
And were you emotional in describing this to Lyle?
The memory is somewhat blurred, but I do remember, I think, leaving a table, not being able to control my emotions.
And how did Lyle respond to this?
He was, he's pretty quiet. He's a great listener, and anything pertaining to me or something of this, he was just very quiet. Gave me all the time I needed to answer the question, and he seemed somewhat emotional about it.
Why do you say he seemed emotional about it?
I can't remember exactly why, but I just know that he reacted strongly towards me saying that. It wasn't, I would have remembered if he would have changed the subject or, looked like he was not believing me.
Do you remember saying that Lyle seemed very shaken?
I don't remember saying that, but that's a pretty good response.
And do you remember saying that tears were welling in his eyes, in Lyle's eyes?
Overall.
Do you remember saying that tears were welling in Lyle's eyes?
Yes, I do.
Prosecution didn't want that answer out there, did they?
I don't think that was what they were going for there.
No. Oopsies.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
What did you think about the way he reacted to this information you were giving him?
That's a tough question because we had known each other for so long, and we both knew about each other's fathers, and our fathers are very oppressive. And since the very first night we met, we talked about how hard they were pushing us and how much of a driving force they were in our lives. And so at the time, maybe through some intuition, I might have thought that, he was reacting either kindly to me because of my past or whether he was, feeling the same way himself.
Do you remember saying that you were shocked at how emotional he was?
I don't remember saying that, but that sounds like something I would have said.
Okay. Were you shocked at how emotional he was?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You never know what to expect when you tell someone something like that.
And did that cause you to believe that something similar may have happened to Lyle?
Absolutely.
Objection sustained. The answer is stricken.
What did that cause you to believe?
That he may have had similar experiences.
Boom. But he was avoiding that beforehand.
Yeah. He might have just been really nervous and ashamed because you got to remember back then there was like a shame in that,
Right.
Yep.
Let's see what else he lets out.
Gotcha.
And did he say anything to you about having had a similar experience?
Not that I recall, no.
Did he say anything to you about his father having molested both him and his brother?
No, I would have remembered that.
You would remember that if he did that.
Oh,
Is
absolutely.
that correct? Did you ever tell anyone else that Lyle had told you that he had been molested by his father and his brother had also?
Obviously, I heard the tape, so I know that I may have mentioned it later on.
Okay, and to whom did...
So he just contradicted himself.
Absolutely. Which is it?
Did he not say anything, or did you tell somebody that he did because you just heard the tape of you saying that that's what happened? Like, come on, dude. Come on. I
Yeah,
was
get the
liking you
story
for a minute.
straight.
I was liking him for a minute.
I was kind of feeling bad for him.
Yeah, and that just kind of went out the window.
Oh boy.
Did you mention it?
Bob Rand?
Do you remember when you testified in July 26th, on July 26, 1993, as a prosecution witness? You said that you had never told anybody that Lyle Menendez had made the statement to you.
Yes.
You remember that? So I take it you were mistaken at that time. Is that correct?
Obviously.
Mistaken or outright lied? That's just what I want to know. Did you conveniently forget, or you just lying?
And the look on his face, like when you stop the camera, now he's kind of like, you can see, like, uh-oh, am I digging myself into a hole here? Just the look on his face,
Yeah.
you know? So interesting.
His body language has been very different. I was watching him when he was testifying, and you can see emotion. You can see his lips start to quiver. You can see the authentic. I cannot talk today. In his story, and then here his face has totally changed. There's a coldness. He's closed off again. So this, for those that are just watching, this is the recording of oh Lord, what is his name? Donovan Goodrow talking to Robert Rand, and Robert was working on a book on the case, and he had interviewed several interviews with Donovan, and this is where he is telling Robert about Lyle telling him about the abuse.
Well, I don't want to go on that, but I was kind of scared what's going to come up in trial. We will, yeah. That's it. We will. No, I don't know. I don't know that, but but well, I had heard. How did that conversation start? We were in a Chinese food restaurant towards the end in early May, and this I think it's before he found out about my lies, and he said things. It was probably, let's go have Chinese food tonight. We're best friends. We sat there and he says, I know everything about you. You know, you're my best friend. I love you. You know what I think it would have been? Because I think it might have been, he found out a little bit about me, but he didn't believe it. He didn't want to believe it. He wanted to come back to me and see if I would tell him the truth. Or at least he was testing me. But still at the same time, it was 100%. You couldn't, it was real. You couldn't fake the kind of emotion he was giving me right then. And I was sitting there, and he says, I know everything about you, my best friend. I love you as much as my brother, if not more. He said, you know, we're family. As far as I see from here out, we're family. You know, my two greatest concerns are my mom and my brother. And I try to help them as much as I can. And I worry if anything happens to me, if they're going to be okay. He takes care of his brother. He just looks out for his brother. It's his biggest concern. And he said, you know, if anything happens to me, I need you to help take care of my brother for me. And if anything happens.
What's sad about this is that Lyle obviously thought the world of this guy. And this guy just basically screwed him over.
Like, totally threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
How sad is that?
I mean, with what he's sharing with Robert Rand, he saw him as another brother.
Yeah.
It baffles me. Baffles me.
You know, to you, I'll take any mom and brother for. I mean, these kind of things are said back and forth across the table. and I want to be together forever. Anything can come between us, anybody, any girl, anything, just us. And he says, is there anything I don't know about you? And I said, as a matter of fact, there is. When I was a kid, I was told I was molested. And in front of my father's, we were spending the weekend at a business friend's house. And telling the story, I'm all choked up because I can't believe I've never told anyone the story. And that was really personal. Yeah. And then he was in tears. There's 20 minutes in speak. And I'm telling him this whole story about. I can still remember, the pictures on the wall and the color of the room and the carpet and the time it was. And, everything about it. It's very clear in my mind. And just bring it all back up and I have to choke up. I excuse myself for the bathroom. Just wiping the tears up, I guess. He came back and he told me about his father. And I guess maybe one of the reasons we were friends is because we had so much in common with his where we suffered, experience. And then to bring this into the relationship as far as an experience we both shared that we'd never spoken to or about to anybody.
So basically, he said that his father been abusing her.
Yeah, him and her. And
Lyle.
Yeah, and we take back some of that stuff. I just, you're at this. It's weird because you felt we weren't drinking. We were just sitting there and whole physical chairs are up on the table. You guys just another wait for us to leave. He's telling me this.
Okay, there it was. They were waiting for them to leave. That's the part that you and I missed a while ago.
I could have fallen on the back of my seat. He's telling me that. Him and his brother. His brother has been the most affected by it. He's still. He was younger, more impressionable. I can't really go into this further.
Interesting.
I feel like.
How are you doing, Steve?
Oh, hey, Steve. Welcome.
Everybody coming in. I wasn't watching the screen. I was on the other tab watching the video.
Yeah, I sent some invites out to my peeps.
Thanks all for coming.
I love working with Brandy, and this is just a fun case to do together just because we're so close in age and we can remember it. Do you know, Brandy, fun fact, that this is the case that launched Court TV?
Yes.
Isn't that amazing?
Yep. This one and then OJ.
And OJ, well, OJ really brought it in. Yeah, absolutely. But even historically at that time, I think about it, it's the early 90s. So now we're into what? We're into the late Reagan going into the Clinton years. And we're not at a place yet where.
Actually, that would have been Bush.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, Bush. You're right.
First Bush.
Okay, definitely. Then I always forget about him. He's like the one in between. I always forget about. But he, again, you had such a conservative way of thinking, but you could see in this guy's face, like he's got a lot of guilt.
He does. He goes from some emotion to some guilt to some kind of standoffish, closed off attitude.
Right.
He kind of goes through all of it. He's got these little weird phases he keeps going through. I just wish he wouldn't have turned on Lyle the way he did. I just wish. I don't know. That bothers me. It just bothers me.
Yeah, it bothers me too. And I think it bothers him from the look on his face. Just saying.
I wonder if he's done any interviews since and if he has anything to say about it. I'll have to look, see if I can find anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look at that boombox. Let's just go back in time. Check out the boombox, guys. Those of us that are that age. You remember the movies and they're holding the boombox on the shoulder, playing the music for the girl. That's our generation of music right there. We didn't have these little phones and Walkmans. We had boomboxes that were like as big as TVs.
I still have a boombox.
Do you?
I do. I bought one at like a old record store. Yeah, I have a boombox. I'll admit it. Oh God.
That's funny.
Nice your voice.
Yes,
And who's the other voice on the tape?
Bob Rand.
And was that an interview you had with him in March of 1992?
I can't recall when I did the interview.
You talked to Mr. Rand on several occasions, is that correct?
Yes,
And you were interviewed by several other reporters, is that correct?
yes.
And having listened to the tape now, does that refresh your recollection?
Of the events?
Yes.
No, I heard the tape last time, and it doesn't help me. I know that I said that, but I just can't recall all the events surrounding it.
Okay. Well, do you think when you told Mr. Rand that in March of 1992, you were telling him the truth?
I really can't recall why I would have said that,
Wow.
whether it was truth or not.
You mean you might have just made that up?
It's possible with knowing Glenn Stevens and Bob Rand that I may have put that together. I'm not sure how I came to that.
And
conclusion.
how is knowing Glenn Stevens and Bob Rand, how would that have created the situation?
Well, unlike LA, New York, something along the lines of this trial goes somewhat unnoticed. And there was an anonymity there. And I didn't know a lot about the trial, only what maybe Glenn Stevens, who I had contact with, and Bob Rand may have told me over a period of years. And
Now, is it your testimony that Bob Rand told you that Lyle and Erik had been molested by their father?
oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not sure where I heard it. I
Okay.
can't say who I heard it from.
Is it your testimony that Glenn Stevens told you that Lyle and Erik had been molested by their father?
It may have been him. It may have been Bob Rand.
Do you remember saying that you were very surprised when you met with Glenn Stevens after this interview with Bob Rand and he seemed to know about Lyle and Erik having been molested?
Objection, I think that's not evidence.
No.
Like a foundation.
Let me go back if I may, Your Honor. Then. You were interviewed by reporters for the Los Angeles Times magazine at one point, is that correct?
Yes.
And you then went to Princeton to have your picture taken there as part of the article that they were publishing with regard to this case. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when you went to Princeton to be photographed, you ran into Glenn Stevens. Is that correct?
Yes.
And do you remember telling Bob Rand that you were so surprised when you ran into Glenn Stevens because he also seemed to know that Lyle and Erik had been molested?
I don't remember saying that. I remember talking to him, and I don't remember anything about that.
If
Just seems to keep going with him.
Yeah, his credibility is really wearing thin for me right now.
Yeah. Like, I mean, why not even just say in court, look, I didn't want any of this being out. I'm having a hard time. You know, I think the jurors probably would have been more understanding of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. It's disturbing.
So there's another one. Let's see.
And the people are represented, and the jury
Let's check this one real quick and see what
is in the jury box.
we're going to talk about. This is one of Erik's friends.
Oh, cool.
More detail than I had anticipated.
I believe is
With respect to the drama class, did he indicate to you that he had won an award for acting?
He said he won the best acting award in drama.
Oh, is this where they try to say from drama class in high school that these kids could lie like this? Like, seriously?
At some point in August of 1989, did you become aware of the deaths of Jose and Mary Menendez?
Yes.
And how did you become aware of the deaths?
I got a phone call from one of my old tennis coaches. He called me in the morning and asked if.
Object, Your Honor, is hearsay?
All right, the objection is sustained, but the answer will stand. He has answered the question, and you may ask your next question.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Wait, how is he sustaining the objection but letting the answer stand?
Probably because there's an expectation of the rewording of the question.
Maybe.
After learning of the deaths of Mr. and Mrs. Menendez, did you take any steps to contact Erik Menendez?
Yes.
What did you do?
Called him that day.
And did you actually talk to Erik Menendez?
No, I got the answering machine.
Did you at some point thereafter have phone contact with Erik Menendez?
He had a friend call me back, and then I spoke with him. He had a friend call me back.
Okay, and after this friend called you back, did you have a phone conversation with Erik Menendez?
I don't believe so.
Sometime later, did you have a phone conversation with Erik Menendez?
I don't recall.
Did you at some...
Hold up.
Why is he even on the stand? Does he remember anything?
Well, he says he had a friend call me back, and then I talked to him. Oh, never mind. And then they're asking, he's like, no, I didn't. No, I don't remember. Like, you already told her yourself that you talked to him and then changed your story. Like, at this point, strike, he's out. Get him off stand.
Yeah, I don't know if he's really adding anything to
No, he ain't helping nothing.
At some point actually meet with Erik Menendez sometime shortly after the deaths of his parents?
Yes.
Overruled.
Yes, about a week and a half after.
And would you describe for the jurors what took place? Did you actually go to his house?
I went down to the Beverly Hills house and was there as a best friend just to kind of hang out with him, make sure everything was okay.
Objection not responsibly strike.
Overruled, the answer will stand.
Now, when you went to the Menendez home in Beverly Hills, who was there when you arrived?
When I arrived, Erik and several security guards.
Do you recall how many security guards there were?
No, several.
Were they carrying guns?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
Overruled.
I believe so, yes.
Do you recall what day of the week it was that you went to see Erik Menendez shortly after the killings?
I think it was a Friday.
Do you recall anything noteworthy that occurred on that first day that you were there? Were there any visitors to the Menendez house when you were there?
Yeah, there was somebody who came to look at the computer upstairs.
Do you recall, was it a male or a female?
It was a male with a pregnant wife.
Did did Erik talk to this person, this computer person?
Yes, we both did.
Now, at some point, did the person actually go to a computer?
Yeah, he went to the computer in the parents' bedroom.
What did you and Erik do at that time?
We were with him.
Went upstairs as well?
Yes.
Upstairs, was there a conversation between yourself and Erik Menendez?
A little bit, yes.
Do you recall what was being discussed?
We were talking about a will that the computer guy was looking for.
Erik Menendez told you that?
Yes.
Did he say anything else about a will?
He said that his brother had someone come up and erase a family will, or had a computer expert come up and erase the family will, and that he knew that if it's not professionally done, that there's still access inside the computer, and that's why he was having this guy come up and try to find it.
So that really is bad for the guys. Because they did
Yeah,
hire
I
somebody.
agree. Not good.
No, not good at all.
Did you know that it was Carlos Menendez, a relative, who hired that particular computer expert?
No.
Objection is sustained as to the form of the questions under who you're referring to and the answer is given.
Okay. Mr. Signorelli, did you actually know who had hired this particular expert that you saw that day?
That day?
Yes. Do you know?
Eric said that he had somebody come up. I don't know for sure who hired him, no.
Now, during the course of this expert accessing the computer, what other conversation took place between you and Eric Menendez?
He explained that the will, the original will that this expert was looking for was supposed to be the one that his father was retyping. It's the old will, he said, left all the money to the kids, and that this new will that he had thought Lyle had erased was supposed to leave some money to the company, some money to the kids, and some money to somewhere else. I don't remember who.
Did he express an interest in seeing whether or not it was still on the computer?
Yes.
The will? Do you remember approximately how long it was that the computer expert and his pregnant wife were there?
A couple hours, probably.
Now, this day that the computer expert came, was that the first day that you had been with Eric Menendez?
Right, correct.
After the killings?
Correct.
What happened after the computer expert left? What did you and Eric do?
Just hung out at the house. I don't know if it was that day or the next day that we went out to lunch.
Okay, did you actually spend the night at Eric Menendez's house?
Yeah, yes.
Did you spend the entire weekend over there?
I don't recall if I spent, I know I spent one night. I don't remember in the second one.
Okay, so would that have been a Friday night that you spent there?
Correct.
Into the next day, the Saturday following?
Right.
And
How creepy is it to stay the night in a house that people were murdered in?
It's like they have no regard for it. It's just weird.
It's so weird. Even this kid, I mean, it wasn't his parents, but how creepy is that?
Yeah, very strange.
I mean, I didn't grow up in a privileged household. Is this how privileged kids act? No regard for anything?
Neither did I, but
so if you're a viewer that grew up in a privileged household and might have some knowledge on what it is to be a rich kid, is this how they behave? Like, let's just spend the night and have a big sleepover in the murdered house, Weird.
At some point during your visit with Eric Menendez, did he ever talk about the killings?
Yes.
Would you describe for the jurors what he told you and what the circumstances were, where you were?
We were walking. Do you have a diagram? We were in the foyer.
And this is Exhibit 6, is that right?
So you really direct your attention to Exhibit 6. Do you recognize what's depicted in that diagram, sir?
Yes, bottom level.
Wow, it is so bright you can't see it, and then that humming that is happening.
Oh yeah, it's really blurry.
Yeah, it is.
Menendez house?
And you've been over to that house?
Yes.
Would you describe where you were when Eric Menendez explained to you what happened?
Yes.
Or pointed? Okay.
It's in between the entryway and the family room.
Princess.
So the foyer, I used to call it.
No.
Pointed to an area which is just above where the stairs are designated, in front of the family room as well as the gun room. Is that area?
Correct.
Oh, there we go. I'm a little bit better.
Now, were you both standing there?
Yes.
Was there anyone else there?
No. Well, the security guards may have been there. Outside, yes. But we're not in the present area.
What did he tell you that?
He said, "Do you want to know how it happened?" And I said yes, and I wasn't really sure where we're going with it. And do I have to talk into the mic?
It would be better if you did.
All right. Does it come out?
You're talking this one. You're doing this one.
Okay.
Is he like trying to get an acting job? Like, what the hell? Was he worried about the mic? Just talk.
He said that he was coming home from. He was coming home.
Tell us what was said.
He said he was coming home from.
Hello, everyone coming in and joining us. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are talking about the Menendez brothers. We are starting with the prosecution side of the case. This young man is a friend of Eric's that testified for the prosecution. And if you will, make sure to leave a thumbs up.
A movie, and that he was going inside to get his ID, fake ID, to go out to the bars. And he said he went inside and he came back.
I would object to the witness using the concept.
Objection sustained. You don't have to tell us what was shown to you on a diagram. Just tell us what was said. Okay?
All right. He said that he went back outside.
Was Judge just a little peeved at that moment? Well, he was a little worked up sounding.
He's such a grouch, you know. It doesn't
really
surprise
is.
me.
He really is.
Outside, and his
Gonna call him Judge Grumpy Pants.
Yep.
brother was standing there with 2 shotguns and said, "Let's do it." And they walked inside, and Lyle was standing, or Eric went up to the door on the left, which was slightly open, and the door on the right. Lyle went up and put his shoulder against the door on the right, and Eric said he looked in and saw his parents sitting on the couch, and Lyle swung the door open and shot his father, and looked at Eric and said, "Shoot, Mom." And Eric said he shot his mom as she was standing up and yelling.
What was he doing at this point? Was he emotional at this point, or was it matter of fact? Could you describe for the jurors how he related this story?
Just probably a little less nervous than I just did. Just, casual and kind of a low tone of voice. Just in conversation tone.
Did he, at that point, tell you that they were shotguns, or did he just say guns?
Just guns.
Did he indicate to you where Lyle was with these guns?
Outside.
So it's your understanding that they came from the outside and came back inside and then entered the family room?
Correct.
What else did he tell you about this? What happened that night?
That was it. We just went on with conversation after that.
What other topics did you discuss that night?
I don't really remember. I think we played a game of chess after that sometime. And we had dinner. Someone brought over dinner. And I don't remember, really.
Did Eric Menendez ever tell you that he acted in self-defense?
No.
Objection overruled. The answer will stand.
Oh, I lost JoJo. gosh, oh, there she is. I'm sorry, I didn't even see you fall off.
I don't know what happened. All of a
Uh-oh.
sudden I was there and I was gone.
I clicked over to the screen. I was like, oh, wait, she's gone.
I know. I'm like, oh my gosh, let me get back in there.
So this is the, evidently they confessed to him what happened.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Do you believe him that they told him, or do you think he's embellishing?
I think it could be a little of both. I think it's based on they probably did confide some things to him, but he had probably heard other things along the way and might have embellished it himself. I don't know that I would blame Lyle and Erik for that in any way. I don't know. What do you think?
Oh no, I'm very torn. Because and this is where my conspiracy part kind of kicks in, even though I hate conspiracy. I think that it is possible he knew, and he's testifying for them and maybe embellishing a little bit of that to keep from being charged with accessory after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the weapons that were used, they got rid of them. So he could have been part of that.
Well, and I find it weird they've never found those weapons.
Yeah, me too. I always said, did they ever find the weapons? And I can't find any
No,
evidence
they've
that
never found the weapons. Those weapons were never found.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that to me is very strange. I don't know. I have always felt like there were other people that had knowledge or helped hide things. Because, for one, let's face it, these cops did a shitty job. The rule of thumb is family's always the first suspect.
I
These
know,
guys
they're letting these
never
boys
treated a
cry. Yep, touch everything. They even had gunpowder residue on their feet or something, and they didn't notice. I'm like, oh,
they
come
even
on.
there were bullets in the car even, and the cars weren't searched. They didn't take any evidence. They just, let the boys in and out of the house. Like, what the hell? Like, is this how Beverly Hills treats these people? Like, is it special? Is it privilege? Is this what privilege is? I mean, I'm being facetious, guys. I'm being facetious. This is just weird to me that they were never treated as suspects ever, and that should have been the first thing.
You're not going to get a disagreement out of me, Brandy. I think you're right. I think they screwed this up from day one.
Yeah. I mean, because this wasn't a perfect crime. I mean, they're literally on the phone with 911. I played that last week where they're saying where there's smoke in the house. We can see the gun smoke in the house. Well, I mean, that happens immediately and that goes away, and it's gone by the time the cops got there within 3 or 4 minutes. I think they said it was like 4 minutes, I think, something like that. So, and they couldn't even smell it. They couldn't smell the gunpowder. So it had been longer than the few minutes it would have taken for them to walk in and see gun smoke everywhere. So even in their 911 call, there's holes that you can go, why didn't they catch that?
Yeah.
Hey, come on, this is your job. You guys have one job and you're not doing it here.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I don't know. I don't find him a reliable reporter.
No, I think that I have questions. I have questions with this witness. Tons of questions. I feel like he's putting on an act. To me, it feels like an act. It feels like we're trying to get our 5 minutes of fame and be on the stand and be a hero kind of thing. I don't know. It's just weird.
And what's the motive,
Right. I mean, it's very possible he could have been doing this to make sure they didn't charge him. So let's make it sound worse. I mean, telling him anything was bad, right? The whole crime itself is bad. So how do you make it worse? But I don't know. I feel like there's something behind his motive.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you.
Rosalie says, when you have all of the money in the world, you're treated different. When a spouse is alive, they always blame the other spouse first. Right. Family is always looked at first in any crime. Any kind of crime like this, family is looked at first. And if you ever find yourself in a predicament where somebody close to you is murdered, don't get offended that they're questioning you, because that's just normal. That is what they do. But they didn't do that in this case, obviously.
Yeah. Really not a strong investigatory unit at that time at all, because when you even think about some of the things that they screwed up with the OJ scene, you know,
yeah, because with
it
that one,
helped
they walked off
open
the
every.
crime scene. I mean,
Yeah, they literally like spread their DNA everywhere. It was a mess.
And so, I mean, is it because in Beverly Hills there's no high, or at that time there wasn't any high crime, and so they didn't have the training, or did they just have the mindset of this kind of stuff doesn't happen here? We don't need to be. I don't even know what I'm trying to think of to say there. I don't. It's just weird. It's just weird that two Beverly Hills crimes within the same time frame are so botched that one ends up in a hung jury that goes to a second trial, and one is an acquittal that was obviously guilty. It baffles me. Baffles me. So weird. So I think the next one, I really want to go through Oziel and Jodalon, however you say her name.
The doctors.
The doctor and the girlfriend. I really want to go through their testimony.
Oh, yeah, I watched them tonight too. Yeah, I'll be ready for them again.
Because I think that those two are pivotal. There was something I read today, and she's like, look, the only reason I even reported this was because I wanted him in trouble, because he was blackmailing and he was this and this and this and this and this. She never expected the boys to get in trouble. And I'm like, well, that's stupid. What did you think was going to happen? But I do have issues with Oziel. I think that he should have had charges on him for inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, and misuse of somebody's personal confidential information.
Right. Well, and misuse of power, and it just there was a
to
lot
the
with
Hippocratic Oath. He's a doctor.
So, and her testimony is just all kinds of nuts. So I want to break it down. So we'll do that next. And because that's probably going to take quite a bit, because we'll have to pick out pieces that, so we don't have to play the whole 500 hours of it, because I'm sure that's about how long it is. Because these guys don't even have the information those two have, and they're forever long.
Got ya.
So, well, guys, I think we'll call it a night tonight. That's a good place to break down, and then cover them next, and then we can go into the defense, which is going to be insane, because they, one side had over 50 witnesses. So
yeah, it's definitely a lot, but I look forward to doing this again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. All righty, guys, y'all have a good week. It is hump day. I have got an event this weekend, and I have got to get my body to quit hurting so I can get ready for it. But I hope everybody has a good week, and we will see y'all next week for this.
Yeah, you too, guys. Have a good week. Thanks a lot, Brandy. This was fun.
Bye, Jojo. I'll talk to you later.
All right, my friend. Bye-bye.